The movie opens with Frank Martin, a former Special Forces operative who now works as a professional transporter. He drives a sleek Audi and lives by 3 unbreakable rules: never change the deal, never use names, and never open the package. One day, Frank is hired to transport bank robbers after a heist. However, when the group arrives, he immediately notices a problem. The deal was for 3 men, but 4 show up instead.
The deal was transportation for 3 men with a combined weight of 254 kilos.
Yeah? Well, this is a new deal.
Since Frank never alters an agreement, he refuses to proceed.
I drive.
Not without the ignition code, you won't. 3 men was the deal.
3 men.
Go, go, go! Oh, man.
The robbers try to threaten him, but Frank stands firm. With no other option, they leave to find another transporter. Frank returns home and calmly goes through his routine. He changes his car's number plates, thoroughly cleans the vehicle, and prepares breakfast as if nothing unusual happened. While watching the news, he discovers that the robbers were eventually caught. Their second transporter lacked Frank's skill and confidence. Soon after, Inspector Tironi visits Frank's home. Although polite, the inspector clearly keeps Frank under suspicion, as he always seems connected to criminal activity, even when nothing can be proven. Not long after, Frank receives another job offer. He meets the client, carefully explains his rules, and records the package details, its weight, size, and delivery points. Once everything is memorized, he burns the paper and accepts half the payment up front. His professionalism leaves the client impressed. The next day, Frank arrives at the pickup location, where 2 men load a heavy package into his trunk. As he drives, strange noises begin coming from the back of the car. He stops briefly to check, but refuses to open the package, reminding himself of his rules. Instead, he secures it and continues driving. Later, Frank stops at a gas station. Despite knowing it goes against his principles, he opens the trunk and discovers a young woman tightly bound inside the package. Without fully freeing her, he gives her water and quickly seals the trunk again, trying to minimize the damage already done to his rules. As the journey continues, the woman becomes increasingly restless, forcing Frank to stop once more.
You want me to do it in your car?
You don't need your mouth to pee.
55. 54.
Good to break the rules.
Drag you out.
Rule 3, never look in the package. See what comes of breaking the rules?
Eventually, he completes the delivery and arrives at a luxurious mansion owned by a powerful mafia boss known as Wall Street. Wall Street greets Frank with admiration and pays him in full, subtly testing whether Frank had opened the package. Frank avoids giving a direct answer, maintaining his calm demeanor. Still suspicious, Wall Street decides to test him further by offering another delivery, this time a very small and mysterious briefcase. The offer hints that Frank's rules, once broken, may lead him into far deeper trouble.
What the f***?
After returning home, Frank decides to question the girl he rescued. He makes it clear that she will only answer what he asks, nothing more. She introduces herself as Lai and reveals that she is from China. When Frank asks what kind of danger he has brought upon himself by helping her, she warns him that he is now in serious trouble. Before she can explain further, Frank shuts the conversation down, choosing not to get emotionally involved. He unties her hands and feet, gives her food, and leaves her alone while he goes upstairs to rest. While Frank is away, Lai quietly explores the house. She comes across old photographs and military commendations that reveal Frank's past. The following morning, Lai prepares breakfast and coffee for Frank. He finds her kindness strange and remains distant. Their tense calm is suddenly broken when Inspector Tironi arrives at the house. He is surprised to see Lai there, and she quickly explains her presence by pretending to be a maid. During the visit, the inspector subtly confronts Frank with evidence suggesting his involvement in recent events, including remains linked to his destroyed vehicle. Although nothing is proven, Tironi's suspicions deepen. Not long after the inspector leaves, the house is attacked and explodes.
Go, go!
They escape through an underground passage that leads them to a small, abandoned apartment. Exhausted but alive, they spend the night there, knowing that Frank's decision to break his rules has now put both of them in danger. The next day, Inspector Tironi summons Frank for questioning regarding the bombing. He presses Frank about possible enemies from his past, but Frank calmly explains that his former life in special operations left him with countless enemies, making it impossible to pinpoint anyone specific. When the inspector briefly leaves the room, Lai takes advantage of the moment. She accesses his computer, searches for information on Wall Street, and secretly prints important files before anyone notices. Later, Frank tries to distance himself from Lai, encouraging her to disappear and start a new life while she still can. However, she refuses to leave. She reveals the truth behind Wall Street's operation.
On a ship, you were a soldier. Your job was to save people.
Thank you.
Hello. Surprise.
Put your hands where I can see.
Broke the rules. What'd you expect me to do? Recommend you for another job? So,
She reminds Frank of who he once was, a soldier sworn to protect lives.
bye.
She thinks we're smuggling people in containers.
I'm begging you. Stop what you are doing.
Before Frank can respond, Wall Street confronts them, revealing that Frank's father
You'll save one.
What now?
Take her.
Frank is held in a detention cell when Inspector Tironi comes to see him. During their conversation, Tironi admits that he doesn't believe Frank is a criminal, but he needs to understand the full truth behind everything that has happened. Frank finally opens up and reveals that Wall Street and Mr. Qi are deeply involved in human trafficking and are in the middle of smuggling nearly 400 people from China. When Tironi asks for proof, Frank explains that he has none in hand, but he trusts Lai completely and believes her without hesitation. Tironi lays out a risky plan that will allow Frank to escape custody and take matters into his own hands. Following the plan, Frank creates a convincing distraction and manages to flee the police station. Frank boards a boat headed straight for the shipping port, while Tironi wishes him luck, knowing full well that Frank may not return. At the port, Frank begins searching desperately for the hidden captives. He moves from container to container. Eventually, he spots Wall Street nearby, overseeing the transport operation and giving instructions. At the same time, Mr. Qi attempts to manipulate Lai, trying to pull her back under his control. With no time to lose, Frank hijacks a broken-down car and pushes it beyond its limits in pursuit of the moving containers. The car eventually fails, leaving him stranded. Thinking fast, he notices a small aircraft landing nearby. He forces the pilot to take off and fly toward the convoy. From the air, Frank jumps and lands directly on top of the shipping containers, determined to stop the operation at any cost. In the end, Frank confronts Wall Street, and the trafficking operation collapses. Hundreds of innocent men, women, and children are rescued, finally freed from their nightmare. Against all odds, Frank and Lai succeed in exposing the crime and saving countless lives. Several years later, Frank is living in Miami and continues working as a transporter, but his life has taken a new direction.
Woo! Let's go, fellas! Come on, baby! Come on, baby!
This time, his assignment involves driving a young boy named Jack to and from school. Jack is the son of Jefferson Billings, a powerful government official. During their daily rides, Frank teaches Jack discipline, responsibility, and a few of his own life principles. Over time, a genuine bond forms between them. One afternoon, when they arrive at the Billings residence, Frank notices tension between Jack's parents. To protect the boy from witnessing the conflict, Frank stops the car at a distance. Jack's mother, Audrey, notices this, and later thanks Frank for his consideration and for taking such good care of her son. She acknowledges how close Frank and Jack have become in such a short time. Frank explains that he is only filling in temporarily for a friend, and doesn't usually take on personal assignments like this. Before parting, Audrey arrives at Frank's house emotionally unstable and intoxicated. In her vulnerable state, she attempts to cross a line, but Frank immediately stops her, thanks Frank for his honesty, and leaves with a clearer mind. The following morning, Frank takes Jack to the hospital for his appointment. Jack is visibly nervous about the injection, but Frank calmly reassures him, promising to stay by his side. Jack's trust in Frank is unwavering, and he believes that as long as Frank is there, nothing bad can happen. At the hospital, things quickly begin to feel off. The doctor they were scheduled to see is suddenly unavailable, and the situation becomes confusing. Before Frank can fully assess what's happening, events spiral out of control. As they leave and return toward the Billings house, Frank receives a terrifying call. He is informed that a bomb has been planted beneath his car and will be detonated if he doesn't follow instructions exactly. Moments later, Lola appears and forces her way into the car. Inside the house, Audrey has prepared a small celebration for Jack, but Frank subtly signals her that something is wrong. Her expression immediately shifts to fear. Under Lola's command, Frank is forced to drive away, and soon, multiple police vehicles begin pursuing them through the city. Frank manages to temporarily lose the police and follows Lola's instructions to a remote location. There, he comes face to face with Gianni, the mastermind behind the operation. Gianni's men seize Jack, leaving Frank helpless and surrounded. Gianni then contacts Jack's father and demands an enormous ransom, threatening the child's life if the money is delayed. Frank is ordered to leave, but as he walks away, he notices a reflection beneath his car that reveals exactly where the bomb has been attached. Realizing the danger, he immediately drives off, knowing that the explosive could be triggered at any second. As chaos unfolds, the police begin investigating Inspector Tyrone and discover his true identity. Although he explains that he was only staying with Frank as a friend, the Miami police detain him for questioning. Despite this, Tyrone continues helping in secret. Meanwhile, Frank rushes back to the hospital and enters the room where Jack was supposed to receive his injection. There, he discovers a dangerous viral substance, revealing that the hospital visit was part of a far larger and more sinister plan. Tyrone manages to access police systems discreetly and retrieves critical information related to one of the suspects involved. He sends Frank the details, including the man's address. Frank immediately heads there and confronts the suspect, who recognizes him and tries to flee. What follows is a relentless chase through the streets. With Frank closing in, determined to rescue Jack and stop the operation once and for all. Dimitri panics when he realizes something is wrong with his body. Believing he has been poisoned, he runs desperately in search of an antidote. This reaction is exactly what Frank anticipated. Staying hidden, Frank follows him closely, knowing this will lead him straight to the source. Meanwhile, Mr. Billings receives news from the police that Jack has been located. Officers rush to the site where a suspicious truck has been discovered and begin following strict safety procedures. However, the delay overwhelms Audrey with fear. Convinced that her son might be suffocating inside the container, she ignores warnings and opens it herself. Jack is alive, and her relief is immediate. Unbeknownst to her, Gianni and Lola are watching through a hidden camera, confident that their plan has already succeeded. Jack was never meant to be killed on the spot. He had already been injected with the virus. Elsewhere, Dimitri bursts into a doctor's office in a state of panic, demanding the antidote and claiming he has been infected. The doctor hesitates. Frank arrives shortly after and is immediately confronted by armed security, but he manages to fight his way through.
My patience is about to run out.
The virus is designed to go inert after 24 hours.
Now give me the vials.
After Jack is brought home safely, Mr. Billings reflects on his failures as a husband and father. He apologizes to Audrey and admits that he lost sight of what truly matters. That night, Frank secretly enters Jack's room and explains everything to Audrey. He reveals that Jack was never the real target. He was used as a delivery method. The true objective is Mr. Billings himself. The virus is meant to be unleashed at a global summit where world leaders will gather to announce strict anti-drug policies. If released, the virus would spread rapidly, killing countless people and allowing the cartel to dominate on a global scale. Frank administers the antidote to Jack, ensuring the boy's safety, and urges Audrey to warn her husband immediately. Before he can escape, house guards spot him and attack, but Frank neutralizes them swiftly and disappears. Audrey tries desperately to reach her husband, but the poor connection prevents her warning from getting through. Without wasting any time, Frank races toward the location of the conference. Inside a heavily guarded mansion, dozens of armed men await him. One by one, Frank takes them down with relentless precision, moving like an unstoppable force through the compound. Eventually, he comes face to face with Gianni, who reveals himself as a mercenary, loyal only to money. Before Frank can stop him, Gianni escapes in a helicopter. Frank sprints outside, jumps into a high-performance sports car, and chases the aircraft through city traffic. Authorities watching traffic cameras are left stunned by his impossible speed and control. The helicopter descends at an airport where Gianni transfers to a private jet. Frank reaches the runway just as the plane begins to take off. In a final act of sheer determination, he launches himself from his car and grabs onto the plane's landing gear as it lifts into the sky, refusing to let the mission or the world slip away.
Drinks.
Police finally surround the area and arrest Gianni, bringing the nightmare to an end. Scientists are able to extract an antidote from his blood, which is rapidly developed and distributed across the world. The spread of the virus is stopped just in time. After everything is resolved, Frank drives Inspector Tyrone to the airport. The two share a quiet moment of mutual respect, knowing they may never work together again. Tyrone leaves with a smile, calling the entire experience the most memorable vacation of his life. The story shifts to a massive cargo ship floating offshore, carrying a suspicious load. The ship is denied permission to dock and waits for approval from powerful business figures. Meanwhile, Frank is seen enjoying a peaceful day, fishing with Tyrone by a quiet lake. Life appears calm, almost ordinary, but beneath the surface, Frank is still very much part of the underground world. The thrill and danger never truly left his life. The focus then turns to an environmental minister, known for his uncompromising stance on green policies. Despite heavy opposition from influential corporations, he continues pushing strict environmental laws and publicly defends the protection of nature. One day, a mysterious file arrives in his office. Back at home, Frank is watching television when a car suddenly crashes straight into his house. Shocked and frustrated, especially after recently rebuilding the home from a previous explosion, Frank rushes outside and calls for emergency help. He discovers the driver is badly injured and realizes it is someone he knows. Just days earlier, Frank had turned down a risky job and suggested this very man take it instead. The injured man is rushed for medical help, but Frank soon wakes up in a sterile room wearing a strange bracelet around his wrist. Before he can fully understand what's happening, Johnson appears. He is the same man who threatened the environmental minister. Johnson reveals that Frank is being forced to replace his deceased friend and take on the role of transporter once again. Frank initially refuses, but the bracelet makes it clear that refusal is not an option. Reluctantly, he agrees, on his own terms. He insists on using his own car. Johnson accepts, installs his own tracking system, and lays out strict conditions. The bracelet is revealed to be a proximity device, designed to punish Frank if he strays too far from the vehicle. Soon after, Frank receives coded instructions through his car's system. The destination keeps changing, making it clear that this job is about control, not transport. Johnson's real objective is revealed: to keep the minister's daughter constantly moving until her father gives in and approves a company's toxic waste operations. The cargo ship seen earlier. Rather than blindly following orders, Frank takes action. He drives to see Otto, an eccentric mechanic known for his unconventional inventions. Otto examines the bracelet and is immediately fascinated.
You, of course.
Some things in the car are a bit off. Need a checking.
The boss says.
Frank prepares to get back on the road, fully aware that every move he makes is being monitored. But one thing is certain, Frank Martin never stays trapped for long, and this mission is far from over. Frank realizes that no matter how much he resists, the only way to survive, while secretly sending another driver to steal the vehicle. Frank immediately notices what's happening and gives chase. The car is stuck in slow city traffic, but even then, Frank struggles to catch up on foot. Spotting a child's tricycle nearby, he jumps on it without hesitation and pedals with everything he has, turning the tiny bike into an unlikely pursuit vehicle. Frank manages to reach the car. Meanwhile, the environmental minister becomes desperate after realizing his daughter has vanished. He alerts intelligence agencies, and special operatives are dispatched to locate her. To buy time, the minister delays signing the waste company's permit. At the same time, police investigate the car crash at Frank's house. Inspector Tyrone leads the operation and retrieves a GPS tracker from the wrecked vehicle. Tyrone notices Frank's car appearing on speed cameras, helping confirm the direction of travel. Still, the pieces slowly begin to come together. Frank has no choice but to continue the delivery with Valentina. Later, they stop at a gas station. Valentina, emotionally drained and aware of the danger she's in, decides to drink, choosing to enjoy what little freedom she feels she has left. As Frank helps her back to the car, members of the minister's search team arrive at the station. One of them notices Frank and Valentina behaving suspiciously and alerts the others. Frank senses the danger immediately and makes a sharp turn to escape, triggering a high-speed chase on the highway. Despite the chaos, Frank keeps control of the car while Valentina, caught between fear and rebellion, embraces the thrill of the moment. Their escape is narrow, but successful. Later, Valentina finally explains how she ended up in this nightmare. She reveals that she was kidnapped at a party after being drugged. When she woke up, she was wearing the same bracelet and riding with the previous transporter. At first, he didn't believe her claims about being the minister's daughter. But after she convinced him to let her call her father, he realized the truth and panicked. Breaking his own rules, the transporter allowed her to make the call. That mistake cost him his life. Johnson's men attacked shortly after, leaving him badly wounded. With no other option, he took Valentina to Frank, believing he was the only person capable of saving her. As pressure mounts, Johnson grows impatient with the minister's delay and demands proof of compliance. The minister refuses to proceed without hearing his daughter's voice. In response, Johnson contacts Frank again and gives him a new destination, tightening his grip on the situation. Meanwhile, Inspector Tyrone and his team analyze the call signals and the information Frank has shared. At last, they manage to trace Johnson's location, setting the stage for the final confrontation. Inspector Tyrone informs Frank that the authorities are ready to close in, but Frank is still trapped under Johnson's control and must appear at the designated meeting point. The location is a bridge spanning a quiet lake, perfectly isolated and carefully chosen by Johnson. When Frank arrives, both ends of the bridge are blocked, signaling that this is the final handoff. Johnson demands Valentina, planning to eliminate Frank immediately after. Despite the danger, Frank acts strategically. He instructs Valentina to comply while ensuring her safety, knowing that Johnson would not risk harming her since she is still crucial to his plan. Valentina hesitates, reluctant to leave Frank, but he forces her out of the car to protect her. Johnson removes her bracelet and orders his men to kill Frank, confident the mission is complete. In a dramatic sequence, Frank narrowly escapes a deadly trap, surviving attempts to eliminate him while the authorities scramble to track the action using phone signals. Johnson boards a train with Valentina, intending to flee the police. He allows her a final call to her father, delivering an ultimatum. If the contract is not signed, she will die. But Valentina's courage shines through. She tells her father not to give in, refusing to compromise her principles. Meanwhile, Frank repairs his damaged car and springs back into action. When he discovers Johnson's escape by train, he executes a daring stunt, driving his car directly onto the roof of the moving train to pursue them. In the climax, Frank confronts Johnson and ensures Valentina's safety. Johnson is ultimately defeated, and justice prevails.
Doing the right thing.
Thank you very much.
The crisis concludes with Frank, Tyrone and Valentina returning to a quiet, sunny day fishing together. Peace has finally returned. Valentina stays by Frank's side, hinting at a new beginning, while Tyrone observes quietly,